of. He also served as a school supervisor and therefore was very valuable in terms of the service he gave to the Ministry of Education, and I think that was where he spent most of his life and gave his dedicated commitment to Trinidad and Tobago. So as we recount the life of Mr. Clifton Coto, we send condolences to his family, his community, and we note that a life well lived is a life that can be recounted by so many different people in different spheres as someone that impacted them. And Mr. Coto was one such person. On behalf of the Ministry of Education, where he served for so long, on behalf of the government, we say condolences to the country and to his family on his untimely passing.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This morning we pay tribute to a very distinguished son of our soil, who not only exemplified what it was to be an elected official, but displayed sincere passion on what it meant to be a servant of the people. Clifton Coto, having served as a member of this Honourable House from 2010 to 2015, was more than just a politician. He was also a human being dedicated to empowering, enriching, and uplifting others. His life's accomplishments, as well as career, shows a man who dedicated his entire life to developing others. As a teacher, school supervisor, school principal, he impacted the lives of hundreds of students. Today, an entire generation of professionals can relate to you that when their young lives came tough, it was Mr. Coto who supported them. Not satisfied with his human service of molding young minds, Clifton decided that he wanted to build the lives of those around him, and thus he entered local government. He was elected councillor in 2003 for Inverness Princestown. At that point, he became a champion for better roads, better communities, better families, and better lives. As he did his whole life, he pushed the bar of excellence and people-centered service higher, as he aimed to serve more than at the local government area, but an entire constituency. He was elected the MP for Maruga Tableland, and he was committed to one thing, the historic transformation of this constituency. So he kept on serving and working for the constituents even after he lost that seat out of office. And between 10 to 15, Mr. Coto served the people of Maruga Tableland valiantly. From community events to helping families rebuild homes, Uncle Coto, or Papa Coto as he was called, was there helping. His passion for his country led to his appointment as Minister of Gender, Youth and Child Development, 2013, 6 September to 17 June 2015. Thereafter, Minister of National Diversity, Social Integration, that was earlier, 23 June 2012 to September 5, 2013, and he also served as Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, 28 May 2010, 22 June 2012. At the cabinet level, Mr. Coto would leave his mark in the Ministry of Gender, Youth and Child Development, where he reached out to thousands of young people in our nation. After 2015, Clifton Coto remained a loyal servant of the people of our country. He was appointed as an alderman and vice chairman of the Princestown Regional Corporation in 2016. He remained in that position up until the date of his death. He was an excellent politician. He was a true son of the soil and a patriot, but most of all, he was a genuine human being who loved humanity. Many would tell you that if you ever were in a spot of bother, all you had to do was call by his gate or his office and he would help. Clifton lived a life that was geared to enjoying the simple things, which fueled his passion as a professional photographer. In fact, he would call his camera Betsy, so everywhere he went, he would take that camera with him. Many times he would be seen with his camera Betsy, capturing the beauty of our nation. As a matter of fact, it was his desire to always see the beauty in all things, which made him a loyal servant to the betterment of all. As a nation, we have lost a true statesman, but as a people, we have lost a true friend, father, and mentor. On the morning of that fateful day, 25th January 2021, Clifton sent me 2 WhatsApp messages. We kept in touch until then. It was just later that said morning that he passed away. May God rest his soul in peace. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
During his tenure in this House, Mr. Coto served on 2 joint select committees and contributed to many debates, including, but not limited to, the Trinidad and Tobago Cybersecurity Agency Bill 2014 and 2015, the Adoption of Children Amendment Bill 2014, the Constitution Amendment Capital Offences Bill 2011, the Children Bill 2012, and the Cybercrime Bill 2014 and 2015. As an educator for over 30 years, Mr. Coto served as Dean of Discipline, Senior Teacher, and Games Master at Barrackpore Senior Comprehensive School, and was eventually promoted to the position of Principal at his alma mater, St. Stephen's College. He was a strict disciplinarian and made a significant impact on the lives of innumerable students throughout Trinidad and Tobago. He was known for encouraging his students to have pride in their school and its uniform. Mr. Coto's life was undoubtedly one of service to his family, friends, constituents, students, and people of all walks of life. He was an active member of his community and served as the chairman on various committees established for community and socio-economic development, culture, and national celebrations. Mr. Coto devoted his time to helping others and promoting the advancement of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. He was also a professional photographer, sports enthusiast, and athlete. By all accounts, he enjoyed life and lived it to the fullest. I take this opportunity to express my deepest condolences to the Coto family during this time of mourning, and I pray that the Almighty grants them the comfort and strength needed in this time of bereavement. I now ask that we stand and observe a minute of silence as a mark of respect. May his soul rest in peace. Honourable members, an appropriate letter will be sent to convey our condolences to the family of the late Mr. Clifton Coto. Honourable members, correspondence has been received from the President of the Senate dated January 13, 2021. It states as follows: Dear Honourable Speaker, rechange of membership to joint select committees. Reference is made to the subject at caption. At a sitting held on Tuesday, January 12, 2021, the Senate agreed to the following resolution. Be it resolved that this Senate agreed to the following appointments to the Joint Select Committee. On the Joint Select Committee on Social Services and Public Administration, Mr. Avinash Singh in lieu of Ms. Alison West. On the Joint Select Committee on Foreign Affairs, Ms. Donna Cox in lieu of Mr. Avinash Singh. On the Joint Select Committee on Finance and Legal Affairs, Mr. Hassel Bacchus in lieu of Mrs. Renuka Segran Singh Suklal. And on the Public Accounts Committee, Dr. Amory Brown in lieu of Mr. Randall Mitchell. Accordingly, I respectfully request that the House of Representatives be informed of this decision at the earliest convenience, please. Thank you. Respectfully, Senator the Honourable Christine Kangaloo, President of the Senate. Honourable members, I also wish to advise that I have received communication from Mrs. Camille Robinson Regis, MP, member for Aruka Maloney, who has requested leave of absence from sittings during the period 27 January 2021 to the 27 February 2021. The leave which the member seeks is granted.
Bills brought from the Senate under supplemental order paper. The Evidence Amendment Bill 2020 in the name of the Attorney General. Petitions, papers.
The Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have the honour to lay the following papers. 1. The annual report and audited financial statements of the Heritage and Stabilization Fund for the year ended September 30th, 2020. 2. The report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statement of the Tobago House of Assembly for the year ended September 30, 2016. 3. The Value-Added Tax Amendment to Schedule 2, Number 2, Order 2020. I beg to move that papers 1 to 2 be referred to the Public Accounts Committee.
Honourable members, the question is that papers 1 and 2 be referred to the Public Accounts Committee. All in favour say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it. The Deputy Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I have the honour to lay the following paper. Paper number 4, the 42nd Annual Report of the Ombudsman for the period January 2019 to December 2019. I thank you.
The Minister of Housing and Urban Development.
Madam Speaker, I have the honour to lay the following paper, the Trinidad and Tobago Housing Development Corporation Order 2021.
The Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have the honour to lay the following paper, the Annual Report of the Anti-Terrorism Unit for the year 2019 to 2020.
The Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honour to lay the following papers in the names of the Minister of Public Administration and Digital Transformation, the Minister of Trade and Industry, the Minister of Works and Transport, and the Minister of Energy and Energy Industries. Paper number 7, the Annual Administrative Report of the National Information and Communication Technology Company Limited, IGOV-TT, for the period October 1st, 2018 to September 30th, 2019. Number 8, the Annual Administrative Report of Invest TT Limited for the year ended September 30th, 2018. Number 9, the Annual Report of the Trinidad and Tobago Civil Aviation Authority for the year ended September 30th, 2020. Number 10, the Civil Aviation Number 14 Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation Amendment Regulations 2020. And paper number 11, the Annual Administrative Report of the National Gas Company of Trinidad and Tobago Limited for the period December 31st, 2014 to December 31st, 2017. Thank you very much.
Reports from committees.
Member for Lopino, Borneo West.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honour to present the following report. The interim report of the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the Shipping Bill 2020, First Session 2020 to 2021, 12th Parliament.
Member for Tobago East. Member for Tobago West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honour to present the following report on behalf of the member for Aruka Maloney. The interim report of the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the Constitution Amendment Tobago Self-Government Bill 2020, First Session 2020-2021, the 12th Parliament. Thank you.
Minister's questions, urgent questions.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. To the Minister of Education, in light of recent reports which have revealed that 39,861 primary school pupils and 6,091 secondary school pupils never logged on to the online platform, could the Minister inform this House when will the means test be finalized to determine which students should receive devices?
The Minister of Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in September 2020, the Ministry of Education indicated publicly that just over 65,000 students did not have personal devices and therefore would have difficulty logging on. As we can see from the numbers, almost 20,000 of that number were able to log on, whether they borrowed parents' devices and so on, and so they were able to get onto the system. In recognition of that fact, these students were catered for with respect to packaged information coming from their school, with respect to information being broadcast on TV, radio, and in the print media. With respect to the means test is designed for the devices that are being acquired by the ministry. Those devices, the RFP went out, the evaluation report has been completed, and so they are now going at the point of award through iGov-TT. The means test applies to the distribution of those devices. They don't apply to the more than 22,000 devices that have been pledged through the adopted school and over 13,000 devices that have been delivered to the schools through this program. So the means test is for the devices being ordered by the government. Those are the point of award, but I am pleased to report that the means test is 100% complete and awaiting the procurement of the devices to be implemented.
Supplemental, Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, could you confirm that having told this House that the means test has been finalized, has it been communicated with the relevant stakeholders, such as the National Parent Teachers Association and so on?
Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker, I am not sure if I'm being asked if the completion of a document by the Ministry of Education, if that needs to be communicated to the stakeholders. Why should it be communicated to them? Because they have nothing to do with the means test itself.
Member for Couva South.
Madam Speaker, given the information that the Minister has presented, could the Minister inform this House, taking into consideration that the means test has been finalized, how many students have been identified through this means test to be in receipt of devices?
Minister of Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the means test is to be applied when the devices are procured so that they can be distributed. So at this time, the means test is ready for implementation. The devices are at the point of award through iGov-TT, and once the devices are in the procurement stage and we are able to get the devices, then we will apply the means test and determine which child needs the devices. At this time, the devices that are being donated, the principals have indicated through the survey that we sent out, the principals have indicated which children require devices, and so once devices are donated to a school, then the principal uses that list to be able to donate to as many students in the school as possible.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, to the Minister of Works and Transport. Could the Minister inform this House why did the Bucharest ferry return to Hobart, Australia after journeying 398 nautical miles into its maiden voyage to Trinidad and Tobago?
The Minister of Works and Transport.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in its early advisory, the National Infrastructure Development Company Limited, NIDCO, indicated that the Boca Reef commenced travel from Hobart, Australia to Trinidad on the 21st of January 2021. The voyage planned for off the Boca Reef involved only 2 ports of call. The first being Pepi, the French Polynesian, a distance of 3,592 nautical miles from Hobart. At the distance of 398 nautical miles from Hobart, alarms were triggered. While the technical assessment concluded that the journey could have continued, NIDCO decided that the vessel should return to Hobart, it being the closest port of call, to investigate these occurrences and take the necessary corrective actions to prevent a reoccurrence. The builder Incat Tasmania Pty Limited, along with the original engineering equipment manufacturers, are troubleshooting and resolving the associated issues. NIDCO has requested a test of the major systems upon completion of these activities before the vessel resumes its journey to Trinidad. Thank you.
What's up?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Minister, taking into consideration, you indicated that the technical assessment concluded that the journey could have continued. Could you advise who in NIDCO decided that the vessel should return and on what basis that decision was taken?
Minister.
These are new vessels designed and built specifically for the requirements between Trinidad and Tobago. These vessels are and do have contracts where they have guarantees from the manufacturers. In seeking the public's interest, NIDCO decided that to ensure that the warranties period are taken full advantage of and the manufacturers are doing exactly what the contract requires.
Member for Point of Peer, supplement.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister of Transport. Minister, could you say who has responsibility, final responsibility for the vessel? Is it when they leave the builder in CAT and they deliver it to Trinidad and Tobago? Who has the final responsibility for that vessel for Trinidad and Tobago?
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, NIDCO took possession of the vehicle, of the vessel, so NIDCO is in possession. However, as I indicated, the vessel does have contractual agreement with its guarantee, so the manufacturers are responsible during that for anything that may arise on the vessel during that contractual period. So the responsibility is now to the manufacturers to ensure that the alarms that were raised are rectified.
Questions on notice. Questions for oral answer.
Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there is one question for oral answer, and it will be answered today. Thank you very much.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Question 62 to the Minister of National Security.
Minister of National Security.
Madam Speaker, the total number of fire tenders functioning at the Couva and the Couva South Savanetta Fire Station is 1 fire tender, and it has the support of a number of auxiliary vehicles, for example, water support vehicles, etc.
Member for Couva.
Thank you, Madam.
Madam Speaker, what they've done is they've totaled it, and there are 4 functioning fire tenders at Couva and Couva South Savanetta fire stations.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I know that probably the Minister has other things on his mind this morning, but importantly, Mr. Minister, there are 2 fire stations. One is the Couva fire station, and the other one is the Couva South. or Savanetta Fire Station, and taking into consideration
Madam Speaker, is there a question, please?
The proximity of the Point Lisas Industrial Estate to the Savanetta Fire Station, could the Minister inform this House whether there is a fully functional hazmat fire tender attached to the Savanetta station?
Madam Speaker, as stated, there are 4 functioning fire tenders. The fire service is very aware of the type of assets that they need to protect based on the jurisdiction and where the fire stations are located. So the answer is yes.
Request for leave to move the adjournment of the House on definite matters of urgent public importance, statements by ministers, personal explanations, introduction of bills, motions relating to the business or sittings of the House and moved by a minister, public business, private business, motions.
Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, having regard to the interim report of the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the Shipping Bill 2020, First Session 2020-2021, 12th Parliament, I beg to move that the committee be allowed an extension of 7 months in order to complete its work and submit a final report by July 31st, 2021. Thank you.
Honourable members, the question is, be it resolved that the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the Shipping Bill 2020, First Session 2020-2021, 12th Parliament, be allowed an extension of 7 months in order to complete its work and submit a final report by July 31st, 2021. All in favour say aye. Aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it. Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, having regard to the interim report of the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the Constitution Amendment Tobago Self-Government Bill 2020, First Session 2020-2021, 12th Parliament, I beg to move that the committee be allowed an extension of 5 months in order to complete its work and submit a final report by May 31st, 2021. Thank you.
Honourable members, the question is, be it resolved that the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the Constitution Amendment Tobago Self-Government Bill 2020 be allowed an extension of 3 months in order to complete its work and submit a final report by May 31st, 2021. All in favour say aye. Aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it.
Public business, private business, motions.
Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I beg to move the following motion standing in my name. Whereas the Minister of National Security has unequivocally demonstrated his inability to competently execute his duties, be it resolved that this House express its lack of confidence in the Minister of National Security. Madam Speaker, by this motion, we call on members of this august House to express their lack of confidence in the Minister of National Security. Just as citizens in Trinidad and in our sister isle in Tobago, in the seats of Arima Central, Cunupia, Hindustan, St. Mary's, just as those citizens expressed no confidence in this government on Monday, 20th January. The Minister has a track record of speaking out of turn, trying to deflect, or sometimes simply speaking untruths. The Minister's try to blame everyone else for his own incompetence. Indeed, the Minister's favourite phrase is unpatriotic, and there are numerous examples of the Minister referring to persons with whom he doesn't agree as being unpatriotic. Madam Speaker, if there's any Member of Parliament who is unpatriotic. It is the Minister of National Security for locking out thousands of our citizens outside the country. When we look at the areas which fall under the portfolio of the Minister of National Security, and they are numerous, they are as gazetted in the Gazette of 108, 5th September 2018, and thereafter in the recent Gazette number 158, 9 September 2020, numerous areas which call upon the Minister to execute duties as Minister of National Security. And given the shortening of speaking time, Madam Speaker, each member here will deal with various aspects of the portfolio of the Minister of National Security. And when we do that appraisal, we see that the Minister's incompetence in the performance of his duties in many, many areas under his watch. And indeed, we can dub the Minister of National Security as an all-round failure. Now, it's not just some of us sitting here who are of this view. There are others who have been saying that he is an all-round failure as well. Guardian editorial January 18, 2020, entitled "End the Gun Talk," was a response to the Minister's attempt to implicate the opposition in gun violence in the capital city. That editorial says the Minister's news conference is nothing but gun talk from Minister Young, who seems helpless to deal with crime and appears shocked that his passion for talk can and will make no difference to reassure the population. It continues, "At this stage, we urge you to either bring quick change or do the honourable thing and resign." Express 17 May 2020 also called on the Minister to resign, stating that the Venezuelan incident was the culmination of a series of disasters in which the Minister is a central figure. Within the past 6 months alone, it states, the Minister antagonized the sister government of Barbados to the point where it was forced to issue a public statement of concern. The Minister covertly introduced private security into policing until public opinion forced the Prime Minister to instruct that the contracts be terminated. The Minister publicly encouraged the Army to exercise authority that they did not have. The Minister, through his insensitive management in dealing with groups of anxious citizens trapped abroad, fueled unnecessary hostility, which put the public at each other's throat. But all this really pales in comparison, it says, to the Venezuelan affair, which has exposed our country to the risk of sanctions. By continuing to deny any knowledge that the head of the Venezuelan delegation and the aircraft on which they traveled to this country were under US sanction, Minister Young is asking the public to close its eyes to common sense, logic, and the powerful role he has occupied in the Rowley cabinet. Further states, as the government's key figure in creating this mess, Minister Young must accept responsibility. He must go now. This is not the opposition saying this. 6 months later, same newspaper had this to say. Today, on the evidence of how the deportation of Venezuelan refugees was handled, we have further reinforced in our position that Mr. Young is unsuitable for the office entrusted to him by the Prime Minister. The headline of that article was, "Shame on you, Minister Young." So there have been several of these, and there's a very rare occurrence that took place where it is at a whole front page editorial. Very rare that you get a front page editorial in a newspaper against the Minister of National Security. So there's so many things we can talk about. I want to start with the fact that the Minister is operating under an unlawful piece of subsidiary legislation. I say there is no legal basis for denying entry or not granting exemptions to citizens to come back home. There is no law or legal basis. Now, what has happened, Madam, as many will know, is that the Minister is purporting to act under Regulation 10 of the COVID regulations, which purports to give the power to lock down the borders, the seaports and the airport, and the persons can only come home with the permission of the Minister of National Security. No other country has done this, Madam Speaker. No other country in the world except Trinidad and Tobago has done this. They have placed restrictions.
Standing order 48.2, please, Madam President. Madam Speaker.
That is sub judice.
So.
Yes, okay, and Madam Leader of the Opposition, if it is sub judice, you understand the rule, and I'd ask you to not go there.
I thank you, Madam. I am not referring to any case that is before court. I am dealing with general principles of law, and I have asked before for the Minister to tell us on.
Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise on Standing Order 48.2, and by way of clarification, the issue of constitutionality is before the court, and learned senior counsel ought to know that, Madam Speaker.
Okay, so, Leader of the Opposition, while you may not have referred to a matter, if this is an issue, a substantive issue before the court, I therefore uphold the objection and ask you to move on. The Attorney General takes responsibility for what he said.
Madam, I state again that those regulations are illegal under the Constitution, under the common law, under international law, and under the rights given under the Immigration Act. Those regulations have taken away fundamental rights of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
So, Member for Superior, I've already ruled and I've asked you to move on.
I will move on, Madam. I thank you for your guidance. Coupled with that, operated under COVID Regulation 10 under the Public Health Ordinance, made under Public Health Ordinance, we have a very strange situation where the exemption policy that the Minister has operated under has been done with different criteria. The goalposts kept shifting all the time. Whilst the borders were locked down in March, it was not until June 2020 that we got a first hint of what some of the criteria would be for these exemptions. And thereafter, making it up as you go along, we kept getting snippets of what the criteria would be to allow a person to get the exemption. Now, one of the things that the government has been saying is that we don't have enough quarantine space. We cannot allow nationals to come home and go to home quarantine, because that was a suggestion, that people go into home quarantine in order to stop the spread of the COVID. Madam Speaker, I have in my hand here that the government has not been consistent with its policy. And I have here a letter dated 22nd January 2021 to the Chief Immigration Officer.
Madam Speaker, 53.1, I'm being disturbed on the other side, please.
Okay, so I just ask all members to be reminded, with respect to members who are not speaking, to not disrupt the proceedings, no continuous conversations, and please watch your volumes. Continue, Member for Superior.
Thank you. Letter dated 22nd January 2021 on the letterhead of the Ministry of National Security. Dear Ms. Gandhi Andrews, exemption to depart and re-enter the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on January 25th and 27th, 2021. The Minister of National Security has granted an exemption to the current travel restrictions to allow 17 persons to depart the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on January 25 via Caribbean Airlines flight for Guyana. The passengers will return to the country on January 27, 2021. That is, Madam. from Guyana via Rima Airways. And it lists, and I will not give the names of the persons, madam, but it lists 17 persons who have been granted the exemption to leave and exemption to return. Today they will return. But what is striking is that this letter from the Permanent Secretary of National Security on behalf of the Minister granting the exemption says further, thereafter, so they will come back on today, they will be allowed to proceed to their places of residence. To their places of residence via a cruise vehicle with registration number, and I will not give the number, but it's here in the letter, driven by a Mr. Name is given, driver's permit number. So they will be to proceed to their places of residence to undergo a period of quarantine. So why are we allowing these persons to home quarantine? This is where there's inequality of treatment and discrimination in the manner in which it's being done. It ends, please take the necessary action to facilitate the above arrangements.
I rise on 48.1, requesting clarification as to whether those are diplomats or Vienna Conventions. As in response, it is material to know these facts. It is.
Madam, there are persons working in an embassy. But you know that COVID doesn't discriminate against nationals, diplomats. It doesn't discriminate. Whether you're a national of Trinidad and Tobago or you are a diplomat or foreigner, it doesn't discriminate. So therefore, madam, I'm saying you are allowing citizens, nationals, you don't allow them to come to go for home quarantine, but you're doing it for non-nationals. What do you have against citizens? What do you have against citizens of this country that you will do this discriminatory thing? Now you're telling us some people come and some could go and some come back and go back. Again, the COVID is not only for PNM people or UNC people. The stranded nationals are not PNM or UNC. They are nationals of Trinidad and Tobago. And when you want to talk about proportionate and not proportionate, when you come with this sub judice rule to shut us up, not to talk about law. But there are many other things that this minister is totally incompetent of executing. Many other things. And this is an example, madam, in my respectful view, of this inequality of treatment. So look, I have no problem with who gets to come and who gets to go, whether it's Dr. Rai, MP Rai, or Barry, MP Barry, whether it's the Prime Minister's daughter, or whether it's the AG's son, or whether it's Minister Young's relative. I'm saying it doesn't matter. I am happy for those who are allowed to go and come back. I'm happy for those who were granted exemptions. But again, what about the thousands of other persons who are being left stranded? You are left stranded. And when it is, thank you, when it is, you're left stranded. I know this latest visa-like system. You know, the minister took longer than this to create a form, an online form, than the scientists took to create a COVID vaccine. So that latest announcement, which comes, just in between, we file the motion come Friday to say we have a new online system and you could apply and it would be like a visa. You know, the countries I know about, you can't leave your country without a visa. It's places like Soviet Russia before. You had to get an exemption to leave your country. North Korea, is that where this government this minister wants to take us? You cannot leave, you cannot come back. And so I'm saying whoever got to go and come, fine for them. And I heard the minister is reported to have said he feeling sorry for me. Minister, don't feel sorry for me. Feel sorry for the stranded nationals of Trinidad and Tobago. Don't feel sorry for me. Don't feel sorry for me at all. So here we are with the exemption policies. The latest policy, the problem is not in making the application, Minister. You announced this new online something. That wasn't the problem. The problem was the length of time that you were taking to answer these applications and to grant exemptions. That was the problem. And now you put everybody back down to the bottom of the line. Everybody now has to apply again, with further delays. How is this going to help them? So I think it was a knee-jerk reaction, with the greatest of respect, that the minister came Friday, no, we have to do this motion today, to announce what he called some new innovative something. So, as I said before, the time the minister took to create an online application form, COVID, the scientists have developed a vaccine, a COVID vaccine. It took longer than that to do it. Then we have other issues at the, with immigration. I am told, I'm asking the minister, was the border management system at the airport shut down? Was it shut down? And the question is why? That border management system, IT system, was shut down. From January 19, 2021, there is a memo, and I can produce it if necessary, about 15 hand-picked immigration officers out of about 150 were granted access to the border management system. Now, this creates problems. And I have another memo, and there were several memos written by immigration officers pointing out concern that they were unable to access the border management system at the airport, and since they are processing the passengers manually, without the aid of a watch list, they will not be held accountable for admitting any person who may have been on a watch list or overstayed their previous entry certificate. We know this month, earlier this month, deportees came into the country, madam. Deportees were allowed entry into the country, but there was no border management system up and running to properly check for these people, whether they're on a watch list and what is to be done. So this, now I'm told that today, the BMS is up and running. Is that true? That's what I'm told. It is up and running at the airport. But it was shut down. Then what it is you're hiding? Since Madam Delcy came, I am told that you shut it down. You let only a few people have access. And then you cherry-picked, hand-picked 15 people. And today I got a phone call over day. It's up and running. I don't know. Tell us if that's true. Why did you shut down the border management system? That is the IT portal to bring passengers in, to let people come into the country. What were you trying to hide? And why? Why? But it doesn't end there, you know, madam. It doesn't end there at all. The minister has responsibility for the fire service. Our colleague from Coto South just raised a question about fire tenders and so on. You know, I know the Minister of National Security came to the constituents of Superior to open the fire station. And he fell for that fire station. It was such a well-built, designed station that we had put there. And since then, it is not operational. Not operational. But there is more I want to say about the fire service. Not a single cent was released to the fire services for repairs and maintenance of equipment and training fiscal 2020. Fiscal 2021, the minister did not even bother to allocate funding for these essential requirements. I saw today that an article in The Guardian, Gail Alexander, and I'm quoting her really, that Minister Young is under fire. Well, I think he has greater reason to be under fire than just this motion. I have spent time, and I will spend, and my colleagues will, showing the failures of the minister in execution of his duties. We are clear that the public discharge of his duties has been characterized by incompetence and arrogance. My colleagues will demonstrate there is no area within his ministry that has excelled or even served our people with modest performance. He has been rightly condemned in several newspaper editorials. But, Madam Speaker, there is a deeper level of distrust when in your private affairs one can be accused of abusing his office in defense of personal wrongdoing. Madam Speaker, it has come to our attention that which speak to possible abuse of office, endangering the lives of citizens and undermining the independence of key national institutions. Madam Speaker, there's an upscale residential condominium complex called The Towers, Westmoreland-on-the-Sea. Residents signed a lease agreement which prohibits the use or occupation of common areas and blocking of passages and corridors, which impedes safe passage to fire exits in the event of an emergency. Well, this is understandable, this is common. When a safety audit was done in 2020, it found that of 126 apartments, 34 residents would not comply with this part of the lease. After requesting residents to clear corridors and remove personal items blocking the fire escape, 26 complied. Of the owners who refused to comply was the Minister of National Security and another owner known to the Minister. The Fire Prevention Unit of the Fire Service conducted inspection, reported on December 2, 2020. The report highlighted health and safety hazards and obstructions which endanger the lives of all residents, particularly children and the elderly, in the event of a fire or the emergency. The fire services then were not aware that the Minister was a resident there and he was one of those who was not compliant, but noted the danger in the vicinity of his unit. I am told, and I'm asking the Minister if this is true, the Minister and persons known to him refused to clear the corridors and fire escape, further endangering lives of residents. You know, Madam, I am told, and again ask the Minister if this is so. The fire services issued another letter after the 2nd December 2020, on 31 December 2020, Holy Day, 31 December 2020. They have a thing about doing things on Holy Day. And indicating...
in terms of, remember the nature of your motion. So unless you could quickly tie what you're doing, what you're saying here, I'm going to ask you to leave it, because this is not about, this is about the Minister of National Security executing his duties. So that I've given you some leeway to see where this is going, but, you know, I am at the verge, if you don't tie it quickly, that I'm not going to allow it based on Standing Order 48.1.
Madam, and I'm saying the Minister has responsibility for the fire services. And if it is true that the Minister did not comply with their requirements, the further question is whether the Minister caused fire services
Minister, member, I'm on my feet. And I would ask everybody to be, courteous. Member for Superior, again, I've heard what you've said, and I've asked you before to tie it to the motion. Your efforts thus far haven't tied it to the motion. And all people, all the members here who have a comment, I would ask them either to contain their comments, and if that is extremely difficult, I'll invite them to leave the chamber where they are free to express their comments. I'm on my legs and I'm making a ruling. I've asked you to tie something that is not in the remit in the Minister's responsibility as a minister to the motion, if not to leave it and continue to another point.
Madam Speaker, the Minister has responsibility for fire services, and the question is whether he incompetently instructed them.
Member for Naparima, I would like to hear your member. You may know what she's going to say. I do not know. I would like to hear. Member for Superior, the fact that the member has responsibility for the fire services and the matters that you have disclosed thus far in my ruling do not apply to the motion, and I rule them irrelevant. Please go on to another point.
We'll move on, Madam. Point is made. I'll take your ruling. I'm guided by your ruling. So the Minister has several other responsibilities, and one has to do with forensic services. The Minister promised scientific and evidence-based investigation strategy. We got forensic sciences failure, Madam. The Minister's failure to maintain and improve forensic sciences facilities and services is an indictment on the dereliction of duty. Now, there was a Joint Select Committee report in this Parliament in about 2017 dealing with forensic services and DNA. And at that time, we were told the database, DNA database created by the DNA Act, Chapter 534, was empty. At this time, we have no reports, so the minister is in breach of duties under that Act, Madam. Firstly, Section 13, for samples to be taken from suspects, detainees, or accused. Section 15, persons employed or applying for employment as officers of the protective services, municipal police, supplemental police, and so on. And Section 16, deportees, they also have to, samples have to be taken from them at the airport. Now, the minister has not caused this to happen, and the JSC report indicated that the implementation of this act and the taking of these samples to create a database was not happening. There's a backlog, a tremendous backlog of samples to be analyzed and to be dealt with, and just not happening. So is it that too the incompetence of the minister, which will be developed by another member, given the shortness of time that we have for this debate? The minister also has a duty under Section 11 of this Act to lay in the Parliament a report that he will receive from the custodian. And by the way, I'm told the custodian is no longer there. Deputy custodian is acting in their place. And I'm also told that the Forensic Science Centre, even though since the JSC report, a committee was set up to get the centre accredited. The centre is still not accredited as we speak today. So that DNA Act passed in 2012, amended in 2014, came with regulations by this government during the last Parliament, not being implemented at all. And you know, when they came with the regulations, madam, they were like the best things in sliced bread. DNA is the way to go. This is like rocket science. This is the way to solve crime. This is the way to help. Madam Speaker, the Science Centre and the whole DNA data bank is not there. So even if you have samples from suspects and convicts and so on, what do you match it against? You have to match it against a data bank. And the purpose of that law was to create the national data bank, the DNA data bank, by taking samples from a whole wide range and pool of people. So that's where we are. It is underfunded, understaffed, with inadequate accommodation. Then we were told, just one day less than a year ago, in January 2020, the Honourable Prime Minister told the nation, look, we've got a $100 million loan to build a new centre. We were told by members in the Joint Select Committee on the Select Committee on Evidence Amendment that we will get a new centre down at Mount Hope. It will be many times bigger. So none of this has happened. In this regard as well, the minister has been a failure. So, you know, David. 1 minute. Thank you. Khadija.
Member for Superior, you're asking at the time you stop at 11:11.
Half minute. Madam, I say, look, every zip line time has a zip line too. Every rope has an end. And we believe that the incompetence of this minister must come to an end. He should resign. And by the way, I have a draft letter of resignation for you. If you don't have time to print it and write it, we'll pass the draft to you, Minister Lancaster. I thank you, Madam.
Whip. Whip.
Sorry, Madam Speaker. I beg to second this motion, and I reserve my right to speak at a later time.
Honourable members, the motion being seconded, I shall now propose the question for debate. Be it resolved that this House express its lack of confidence in the Minister of National Security. Minister of National Security.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, over the past few weeks, I think the population has looked on, the population has observed, and now the population can conclude The warnings that I gave, the submissions that I made along the way were all meant with a great degree of empathy and sympathy. But what I have seen here today is very sad, as I've said throughout. The complete struggle for relevance by someone who calls themselves senior counsel. I thought back to myself 6 years ago how that would have gone down in a court of law. But today, Madam Speaker, is about the court of public opinion. Today is about the court of public opinion, and none other than the leader of the opposition, who is obviously in a state of absolute desperation, not only for relevance, but looking around and hoping that those around her would support her. What I heard there today would fail even in a petty civil court of law and would be struck out on a preliminary point of a... It does not even meet the standard of pleadings. Nevertheless, I have come here today, and I start by thanking the members of my constituency of Port of Spain, North St. Anne's West, thanking the population who, as I sat there, kept sending their messages to me, the thousands of messages that I've received of support, thanking my family, thanking those in my party, thanking my colleagues, thanking the Prime Minister. But unfortunately, we're brought here today to waste useful parliamentary time, and I say that with the greatest of respect. Because you see, when someone who leads a party and leads a whole bench, someone who is the leader of the opposition constitutionally, fails and flounders in the way that we've just witnessed, it is sad to hear the continued desperation, the lies, the deceit.
Okay, so
continued desperation and the naked attempts to mislead, not the population, because you see, the good citizens know better. Madam Speaker, I thought about it, and I realized, having listened, what the reason is. I thought about why is there so much focus, so much time, so much energy being spent on me by those who are opposed to me. And this is what it is. You see, I say this without fear of contradiction. I am in no one's pocket. I do not owe anyone anything. There is not a single financier in the world, not only Trinidad, a single contractor in the world, not only Trinidad, a single criminal in the world. There is no one that can say that Stuart Young owes them anything or that Stuart Young will do what they ask them to do. So you see, that is why, Madam Speaker, you see, Madam Speaker, that is why...
Seek your protection. The member, Minister of Lavendale Hines, is threatening me across the floor. Is threatening me across the floor, Madam. I see.
Members, member for Superior and member for Diplomat North East. Okay, so members, I realize this is the first occasion we're back here since Christmas, and we may all have a sort of vaulting energy. I would ask everyone to keep their energy under control, to remember the provisions of Standing Order 53, Standing Order 48, Standing Order 4410, and take this as my last warning to us generally as a body.
Much, Madam Speaker. You see, Madam Speaker, what I understood is when the mover of a motion comes, that person is charged with the responsibility of securing the success of the motion. That mover is charged with the responsibility of laying the foundation for the success of the motion. You can't turn around and say, well, this one will talk, that one will talk, as you read from a script. But nevertheless, every single thing I have done during my time in office for the last 6 years, I say without fear of contradiction, I have always done because I believed and continue to believe it is what has been right for Trinidad and Tobago. My job is to do all that I can within the law to protect Trinidad and Tobago. And I genuinely discharge that without fear or favor, malice or ill will. So I'll start off with the exemption system and the border control. First point, Madam Speaker. The Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago took a decision in March of last year to appoint a 3-man sub-cabinet team chaired by the Honorable Prime Minister, including the Minister of Health and the Minister of National Security, to deal with the global pandemic that is COVID. I am a part of that team. There is no decision that is made by the Minister of National Security with respect to how we deal with the COVID and with the pandemic that is still raging throughout the world that is made by me personally. And I play my part, and I take it very seriously, and I have done so from day one. What I'd like to remind, Madam Speaker, the population through you, is as I look at it, I refer to an article from the BBC, 21st of January. This is from the United Kingdom, because this is what we're facing. Those on the other side have consistently since January, since March of last year, behaved as though there is not a global pandemic and COVID is not deadly, potentially. You would recall they talked about building a dome. None other than the member for Siparia came out, build a dome. COVID will be killed in sunlight, etc. But this is what we're facing now, currently, and why border protection and border control remains a consistent pillar of how this country deals with COVID. Priti Patel says the United Kingdom should have closed the borders in March 2020. This is the Home Secretary in the United Kingdom coming out and saying that the United Kingdom should have closed its borders in March 2020 in light of the coronavirus pandemic. Trinidad and Tobago doesn't have to face what unfortunately other countries around the world, including next door, are unfortunately facing now. The article goes on to say, in a video call obtained by Guido Fawkes, the Home Secretary told Tory supporters she was an advocate of closing the borders 10 months ago. Between mid-March and June, the United Kingdom did not impose a ban or quarantine restrictions on international travelers arriving in the United Kingdom. Compare that to Trinidad and Tobago today. Last night, minutes after midnight, the airline industry was sending me messages that the United Kingdom today may very well announce everyone coming into the United Kingdom will go into a cluster of hotels for quarantine. To stand up here and with the typical dishonesty, it sickened me as I listened to the member for Siparia read a letter and say that 17 persons are being allowed to go to Guyana to come back and go home quarantine. And to create this cloud, it is because they are diplomats. But it showed, Madam Speaker, it showed that the opposition does not understand the Vienna Convention. Because you see, the Vienna Convention says when diplomats arrive in Trinidad and Tobago, the government cannot quarantine them. But what we've come up with, along with the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, is that diplomats arriving in Trinidad and Tobago will be allowed to home quarantine. They present their test results before arriving here, and that is how we protect Trinidad and Tobago and the population, but respect international laws and obligations. So to listen to the attempt to mislead the population, oh, Young let 17 people go and come and they can go home. Complete dishonesty. They are diplomats.
Madam Speaker, 48.6, the reference to complete dishonesty is imputing improper motives.
You know, if members... You know, I have been on my legs for at least 3 seconds. Member for Superior, member for Diplomat Northeast. I think I will invite, I'm so happy to see the camaraderie between you all, but I think that I am at a stage that I'll invite the both of you all to leave the chamber, continue your camaraderie, and then return. Because this is the second time I have stood, and you all have continued as if maybe... If you can kindly sit, please. I'm standing. Could you kindly sit, please? Please continue.
Madam Speaker, very quickly, despite the interruptions, the second article I draw the population's attention to is one dated the 25th, 2 days ago. None other than the Prime Minister of Canada, and is stated in the National Post, Canadians who travel outside Canada could be stranded abroad. Trudeau warns. The government has had travel advisories warning against any non-essential travel since the beginning of the pandemic, but some Canadians have not heeded the calls. And what the Prime Minister of Canada has said, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau warned Friday, anyone travelling outside Canada could face considerable trouble getting back home, as new evidence suggests some COVID-19 variants are both more transmissible and more deadly. He is quoted as saying, no one should be taking a vacation abroad right now. If you've got one planned, cancel it. Don't book a trip for spring break, Trudeau said, outside the cottage. We could be bringing in new measures that significantly impede your ability to return to Canada at any given moment without warning. This is what is happening now. Trinidad and Tobago, whilst having closed borders, has managed the repatriation, of our nationals back. And that has resulted in us being able to carry out the business of Trinidad and Tobago as we're currently doing. The next one, Arden says New Zealand won't open border to the world this year. The Prime Minister of New Zealand, right here, closer to home, Madam Speaker, the 26th, which was yesterday, Barbados today, page 3, public health official, we may have dropped the COVID ball with return to tourism. In an interview with Barbados today, the executive director of CARFA, Dr. Joy St. John, said people across the region had been lulled into a false sense of security. And she talked about tourism and opening the borders, etc. We see what is going on in Europe, what has happened in the United States. So, Madam Speaker, the border control was something that was decided by the Cabinet on the advice of medical public health experts and the scientists. And it continues. The new exemption process must evolve. I've listened incredulously over the last few days, including a few moments ago, the member by Superior attacking an evolution